It's the Wrestling Mat. It's a Thursday. Good to be with you here. I'm sipping on tea because the throat's not feeling so great, but I digress. I could say that after a Wednesday, right? Sorry, Taz. At least I'm not wearing orange here on the program today, but welcome to the Wrestling Mat. Welcome in, everybody. How are you? Good to be with you. It's the most interactive pro wrestling show out there. It is called the Wrestling Mat, and it comes to you every single weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Did you know that already? If you did, I appreciate your support. I appreciate if you've been with me for a day, a week, an hour, or the months that we've done this very program. Thank you so much. Thanks to see that subscriber number continuing to shoot up. Go to thewrestlingmatchshow.com. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe, leave a comment. I answered a bunch more comments over the last day. But where is that? Where is that? Yes, as Rob mentions, where is that? It's right above Todd. It's right above Todd. We'll talk about Todd in a second. We're not going to quite there yet. What's up to Will, Courtney, Rob, John? How you doing? Good to be with all of you here today on the Wrestling Mat. Coming off of Dynamite. That's going to be our main topic of discussion. But first of all, if you're coming in here, what's up, nerdy dude, who's got a lot of people in here as members? Yesterday, if you didn't join the show, or you caught it late, or you were busy, or whatever, you can always go back and watch the full live episodes at right above Todd at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. It's always right there. We have segments that come out. For perhaps you may have seen what we put up earlier today. My thoughts on Gunther, his presentation on Monday Night Raw is part of one of the best Monday Night Raws of the year. Yes, I did indeed compliment a company that deserved it, just like I always do, contrary to some morons in the comment section who think otherwise, and that just makes me laugh. Those comments are hilarious to me. As we continue, though, here. Randy Orton, Bash Berlin, Gunther, all of that's going on. We posted that today at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. And you can also follow us on social media on both Twitter and Instagram at WrestlingMat23. We also had something that maybe will entice you here today. We got a super chat yesterday. We got a few super chats yesterday. As always, they bring you to the front of the line. Those topics will get discussed, whether they're within what I'm talking about at the current time when they pop up, or at some point during the show, from DNC Digital, who asked me, what would be the match you show to people who want to get into wrestling or to describe your wrestling? I love that question. We have it up there on our social media, so go check that out. That was part of yesterday's show, but Super Chats certainly do get you to the front of the line, and we love to see them, and it's another way to support the show. Here's what else we have going up. Tomorrow, talk about how Judgment Day splitting off and the babyface now run of both Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, and what you may not know about how Triple H looks at Damian Priest and has for quite some time, plus how Bronson Reed is coming off the biggest night of his career on Monday night. All of that is covered. You're going to see that tomorrow in some segments, but you can go back and watch the Tuesday episode of the WrestlingMatchShow.com and hear more about that, or the Monday episode, or any episode. Absolutely. Go check those out. Yesterday, though, right here on this show, admittedly, sometimes this happens, and I think for those of you that have watched the show know this, something clicks in my brain, and I get to keep talking about a subject I like. I was going to get into NXT a lot yesterday. We did, but told some stories about Bryan Danielson, working with him in WWE, which we didn't have a lot of personal interactions. We had some interactions, and there's a funny story where he not confuses, but thinks I look like Orange Cassidy. Yes, the guy who wrestled on Dynamite last night with FTR. Bryan Danielson, when he was Daniel Bryan, saw me once in person, was like, did anyone ever tell you look like Orange Cassidy? I told that story yesterday, but I got into very great detail about how Jeff Jarrett unintentionally started my wrestling fandom and how he continues to pop up as a friend, as a coworker, and I never would have guessed at any point in my life that would have been the case. Not even when that picture was taken right there, which, by the way, you want a date on the picture on the right? August 2012. 12 years ago. 12 years ago, that picture was taken. The picture next to it was taken 2 years ago at SummerSlam. So those pictures were 10 years apart. The one on the right was at Jeff's house. Tell the whole story about how him and I became friends. How I went out to his house to be his fantasy football consigliere, if you will. but also told about how we ended up working together in WWE and interacted so many times, and why I still consider him a friend to this day, and why I was so excited to watch the match last night, which we will get into coming up here on the show in just a little bit. But, if you didn't catch those, you want to just catch those parts of the show. Talked about Jeff, talked about Brian a lot. Both of those clips will be coming up later on today at thewrestlingmatchshow.com and on our social media at WrestlingMat23. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and Dom, let's see the memberships, because we have 3 levels of memberships that I'd love you to take a look at. Right above Todd. There it is. It's good now. That's at the base level. You see what you get for $2.99 a month. The loyalty badges, some of those are being popped up. I see Nerdy Dude, who gifted a bunch of subscriptions. He used it all there today. The members-only live chats, we'll have an announcement about that coming up very, very soon, probably in the next day or two, and you're going to get a part of that. Moving on to the Matt Camper level, though. All the perks you just saw right above Todd. At $6.99 a month, you get the member shout-outs, you get the members-only videos. More of those will be coming. And I just told you, we're going to be watching Monday Night Raw. I've mentioned it a few times. I couldn't wait to get to this, though, but Monday Night Raw next week, if you're a Matt Camper, yes, it used to be called mid-card, but we liked Matt Camper better. If you're at the Matt Camper level or the Matt Event level at $24.99 a month, you can watch Raw with us live this Monday night, coming off of one of the best Raws of the year. I look forward to that. And, of course, the Matt Event level, we're going to get that 30-minute private Zoom set up very soon. Who gets it this month? We will see. We're going to follow you on social media. If you haven't, we posted yesterday on our membership page at thewrestlingmatchshow.com to leave your social handle. We'll take care of that for you. Doing specially quarterly watch-along stuff, as well as the merchandise. And we're going to set up this month, someone's going to get to pick one of the events that we watch as Matt members all together, but that's only if you're a member. So go check all those things out at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. And if you're watching this video right now, right below, that join button, that gets you there. That gets you there. But we have a lot to get into. B-Mate gets in there. I can't lie. I couldn't even boo Double J last night because of the story you told. Yeah, there's a hell of an endorsement of the stories I told about Jeff Jarrett last night. But I would also say that I don't know if Jeff was supposed to be a heel last night. I would say that. I don't know if that's the case. But should we start there? You want to start there? Let's start there. I'll start there. So this whole thing has been built up. I've called Jeff Jarrett the conscience of WWE. I saw him. Somebody called him something else last night on Twitter. I can't think of what it was. The conscience of WWE. That's what the conscience of AEW, I should say. He was never the conscience of WWE. The conscience of AEW is kind of how I refer to Jeff Jarrett. And, the Owen tournament and not winning it, but wanting to make sure that the right person was representing Owen, was representing winning that tournament to go on to All In, to become the number one contender to Swerve's heavyweight championship. And he's been testing Bryan, and he's talked to Bryan, and there's a respect level there. And they did some great video packages leading into the match. And I loved that last night they did packages 2 different times during the show before the main event. It's a very simple thing to do. Just remind your fans, hey, this is what you have to look forward to later. And I don't like when commentators, and every show has been guilty of this, for God's sakes, and I don't blame Tony Schiavone, the amount of stuff that back in the day, the WCW's announcers had to talk about with NWO and Hogan and all that stuff when other matches were going on where they would basically ignore them would drive me nuts. I know that was the director from Bischoff, and hey, they did well at times. I think it takes you out of matches when you have that kind of commentary. But reminders. Hey, here's what's coming up. Here's why it's a big deal. Keep an eye on this. It's a backstage promo. It's a prepackaged segment, whatever it be. They did that a couple times last night and told you why. I loved Bryan explaining, looking ahead to All In, looking ahead to the night his career could end. But hey, I respect Jeff Jarrett, and Jeff Jarrett is the one when I need to be pushed. I need to be checked. I need to be ready. Who better to do it than a man who's done everything in this business? I like that. That was good stuff. So what I liked in one of the packages they showed was that Jeff said it's much bigger than a win and a loss. I like that. I was a big fan of that because it is. And I actually think that's a great line to use because there has been a lot of people in wrestling over the last probably month or so, and even more than that, that do a lot of this and then don't back it up in the ring because they're too worried about a win or a loss when everything they talked about was not about wins or losses. And yes, I'm referring to the Drew and Punk thing. And I still am baffled about how ridiculous Punk sounded on Monday. But when Jeff said it's bigger than a win or loss, he was not trying to beat Bryan Danielson last night. He was trying to prepare Bryan Danielson last night. I think deep down, Jeff's not going to tell you I'm going to lose to the number one contender, but I'm going to put him through everything I can because he's going to have to go through all of that and more to become the AEW World Champion at Wembley. So I love that he said that. It's bigger, much bigger than a win and a loss. And Brian will tell you that too. I don't even want to call it a warm-up or an exhibition. It was clearly more than that. But these two guys they don't dislike each other, which is funny to say when you think about the match that they had. But I think it all made sense within the story. It's been a very good story. Anybody who's complained about AEW not telling stories has not really watched. And listen, if you've tuned out because of that, sure, okay. But if you're going to keep using that opinion, you can't bring that opinion to the table when there are stories being told. And they're not all good stories, but there are stories being told. And the good stories that are being told are really good right now. And Jeff Jarrett's been telling a story for weeks now, and has Bryan Danielson, and has Swerve. So Danielson makes his entrance in the main event of the show, and I recently mentioned it, that I hope he uses the guitar. I think it makes all the sense in the world. And I'd love to hear what others are thinking about this match in the chat right now. Because I don't know what Swerve's going to do to Danielson at All In. I know what he has done in the past. I know that he has broken into wrestling schools and training areas and Hangman's house and done everything he's needed to do. And what did he do? He became the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. So it's worked. And a quick aside here, Swerve talking to JR, and good to see JR on the show. In that role, in that legend role where his voice matters talking to someone like Swerve. Swerve said something to JR, or JR should say said something to Swerve where JR brought up the controversial things that Swerve has done. He kept it at that. He didn't go deeper than that. He kept it at that. And why I like that is because so often in wrestling, and it's happened forever, is that when a heel who's done despicable things becomes a babyface, that stuff doesn't get addressed. And I do think in recent years, I think Kevin Owens is a great example of this. You know, I've done some bad stuff. I know that. I can't take that back. I know I have to earn people's respect back. I know I have to earn their trust back. I appreciate when that stuff gets brought up. JR brings up the controversial things he's done. And Swerve kind of said, listen, when you knock at the door and they don't answer, you got to make them answer. So that's why you do those things. And it's not about being proud of those things. It's just saying, I got to do what it takes. This is the whole idea of All In to me. Brian and Swerve. Tony and Mariah. MJF and Ospreay. Are you really going to go all in? Think about everything that's going into those matches. Are you going to put everything on the line? Are you going to use everything at your disposal to walk out of the biggest show of the year on top? Swerve addressed that with JR. I'm willing to do those things. I've done those things. And guess what? I'm in control now. I love that he said, I'm taking control of this business. I got the big gold title. I got this right here in my hand. I am in control. I also liked, and once again, This is a very straightforward fact by Swerve. Not a heel thing, not a babyface thing. Would anyone care if this was my last match? They care about Bryan Danielson, but would they care if it was me? I don't have that kind of support. He's in a way was saying, I don't have the career that Bryan Danielson's had. I'm a great wrestler. I'm the best in this company right now because I got this big title right here that I won, that I've been defending. So I got to go in with that knowing that people care about him. I like that a lot. That's Swerve understanding his place and going, you know what? I get that people are behind that guy. I don't know if I have that support, and I can't worry about it. He's got a massive chip on his shoulder. He's got big internet ears, and by that I mean he hears everything that the internet has ever said about him. Look at what he posted after he won the title. That man is all about bulletin board material, and whatever works. I wrote when I watched, I said the edge is good. There's an edge to Swerve that it's not hokey, it's not weak baby face. He didn't flip. This is who Swerve is. And people like him for it. In the past, they hated him for it, but now they like him for it, and that's good. Initially, when JR brought up Swerve, bringing the idea of this is going to be your toughest match, and Swerve was like, why? And I didn't like that initially when he said it. That was my first. I was like, whoa. You have to treat it as like your toughest match. It's arguably your greatest opponent. But what did he do? He brought up the fact that he goes, wait a minute. What if his arm gives out? It's been broken. His neck's a mess. Think of all the concussions he's been through. I like that. Listen, if you're going to pick a heel in the match, it's Swerve. Swerve's going to get chants. They're going to chant whose house and all that stuff. But he's saying, hey, look what I can do to those body parts. Who's to say his body won't give up? And what I liked about that is it gave Bryan what Bryan is always going to strive on. Underdog sympathy, babyface sympathy. Can he get through that match? He's willed his body through his career. He's talked about how he's given his body. That was mentioned by the chat yesterday, by those that are contributing to the chat usefully. Who's to say his body doesn't give out against someone like Swerve, who is at the peak of his career as the AEW World Champion? So I thought Swerve, once again, showed a complete understanding of who he is, where he fits in this match. I wrote when I was watching, I said, minimal reverence. He absolutely seems to respect Bryan Danielson more than anybody else that he's faced, and with good reason. But he's not there to kiss the ring. He's not kissing ass. He knows what this match means to him. He knows that this is the biggest match of his career because he is walking into the biggest show of the year as the AEW World Champion. Last year he was in a tag match, which was probably beneath him. This year he walks in as the champion. This year he walks in with a chance to put down arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. One of the most beloved wrestlers of the last 20 years. Swerve knows what that means. There's a responsibility that comes with being the champion. There's a responsibility with being at the top of the company, and there's a responsibility to go, you know what? I put Bryan Danielson down because I had to, and it was my job. This is not a personal thing for Swerve, but it's a task at hand he is willing to accept because that is what it takes to stay on top. And he'll have another opponent after that, or maybe he won't. And at the same time, it will draw more intrigue. It draws more sympathy for Bryan Danielson to beat the person who is at the top right now. Danielson is always somebody who I think gets more praise from everybody else than he does from himself. He knows he's good to a level, but he is not a typical wrestler where it's talk to get myself over, always have that. That's not him. I think that's why people like him. I think that's why people invest in his story and invest in him as a person. I like that Swerve is not looking at this like it's a big celebration, because it's not for him. For Swerve, this is his night to defend his title that he worked hard to get to. No matter what he had to do, he did that. And he can walk out of Wembley with the AEW World Championship and move on. And he can add to his resume that he defended his AEW World Championship at Wembley Stadium in the main event. And oh yeah, I retired Bryan Danielson. Not because I wanted to, but because it was the task at hand for me as a world heavyweight champion. That's how he's coming across. He's saying it with his words. He's saying it with his actions. He's saying it with his demeanor, with his confidence, with his presence. I will be the first one to say I was not a big Swerve fan in WWE. It didn't feel like he was being authentic enough. I thought he was a try-hard too often. And I don't think the booking was great either. And I was very much, let's wait and see in AEW. I was not on board. I got the signing. And it took time. And there were missteps. And there were things that didn't get over. But he's gotten there in the last year. He won me over. I am happy to say I was wrong. And that's credit to him. And that's credit to somebody who continues to evolve, who gets who he is, who knows what it takes. That's on screen and off screen. That makes the match bigger. He absolutely owns the spot. He has earned that spot. He is a main eventer. This is not a first title reign. Let's see how it goes, because it doesn't always go well for people. It's going well for him, and he's in the right spot, and he's the right person in that spot when they get to Wembley at All In. So getting back to Jeff, I don't want to. I should have went to that first. Jeff and Bryan. I love they open with the guitar. I love they brawl into the stands. It's exactly what I expected it to be. They fight into the crowd. Jeff's pulling out all the tricks. They're doing a damn suplex up in the mezzanine, the promenade, wherever the hell they were. The crowd was with it. Sometimes you got to do. Sometimes you got to do. If you're watching from home and you're not sure, look and listen to the crowd. See what they're doing. Are they up? Are they with it? Are they chanting? Is there a buzz in the air? That tells me what's working. Now, look, some stuff connects only live, or some stuff only connects on television, and I get that. But the brawling through the crowd and doing it as quickly as they were up, they were with it. You saw the fans, there was no quiet spots. The 57-year-old Jeff Jarrett and Bryan Danielson had them for the right reasons. And I understood that even though they're going to beat the hell out of each other, and Jeff's going to do everything he can because he's Jeff Jarrett and he's sneaky as hell, it was part of it. It was part of getting Bryan ready. Bryan knew that. Bryan knew what he was walking into. You could have a match like that with the brawling and there'd be no ill will. I thought it was fun all around. I love how they used weapons. I love how Bryan broke the figure four, how he used the knee to finish. How is no one, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure people will. What a great spot. What a great spot. It looked like, go ahead, bash the legs. We got to break out of it somehow. They didn't do the turnover thing. They bashed the legs. Do what you have to do. He's going to have to do what he has to do. He's going to have to dig deep to beat Swerve, because as we've established, whether I just talked about it or what you saw last night before that match, Swerve's going to do what it takes. Swerve will be, call it controversial. He'll be edgy. He'll be ruthless. Danielson's faced ruthless before. He's been through the ringer. Personally, on screen, as a character, you name it. But hey, let's put you through it one more time before you got to face Swerve. So Bryan wins for I don't know how, I don't know if it was the ear or the chin or whatever. I actually thought Jeff's blood looked cool because I'm pretty sure it wasn't intentional. But just where it was, it looked like he had been through a fight. It wasn't a typical head gig or anything like that. Like, just the way it happened. It looked like he had been through it. And he was beaten up, and Ricky Steamboat's on commentary, and, you know, he's telling the story of Jeff and how much he cares about Bryan and what he's seen with Bryan. That was a nice voice to have in there of kind of connecting the two stories. And, you know, the picture was put up of the three generations. I think it was put up on the My World Twitter account yesterday, and I saw that, and, you know, that was cool. But that was the end of the match. Jeff Jarrett opened that match hitting Danielson with a guitar. At the end of the match, Danielson hit the knee with the chair on Jeff, and that's the end. And Jeff exits, and Swerve comes out. Now, there's two parts to this. I'll tell the first part. Swerve, once again, let me get out here. Let me talk about this. Let me get in Danielson's head a little bit. Let me play the mind games. I didn't just go through a brawl through this arena. The champ watched this all go down, and they set up the match at Wheeler Yuta. Fine. Let's get Swerve out there. Let's put him through the paces next week. What I did like is what happened after the show. And if you haven't seen it, go see us on AEW socials. And this was one of the things I didn't have a problem with it being on social, because I saw the comments. Most people loved it, but I saw the comments where people were going like, well, that should have been on the show. No, it matters more that it wasn't on the show, because it happened after the show. And if you watch, Jeff's about to get interviewed, and he's with Jay and Karen. I think Sanjay was there, but they're with him. And he starts to talk, and he's talking. Bryan's ready. I did what I had to do. I put him through it. And you see him grab Hangman's arm. And initially I was like, well, why would he do that? If you listen, that interview is taking place while Swerve's in the ring with Danielson, because Hangman, as we heard from him earlier in the night, has the tunnel vision, which is why I put that up as part of our promos today. Hangman has tunnel vision for Swerve. He was going out there. And what was Jeff doing? No. You're not getting involved. That's not your match. So Hangman, because someone got in his way of the man he wants to get to, wails off and nails Jeff and hits him, I think, where he was bleeding. So Jeff goes down. He's pushing everybody else, and they're trying to separate him. And he has fire in his eyes. He's got rage in his eyes because, once again, someone has stopped him from getting to Swerve. He doesn't have Swerve at the pay-per-view, but he doesn't care. He is blinded by that rage for Swerve being the champion. And Jeff doing something as simple as grabbing the arm to stop him pissed him off. Because Jeff knew it wasn't about Swerve and Hangman in that moment. That was about Swerve talking to his opponent at All In. And then Hangman nails Jeff, and here we go. And then we get to Mariah and Tony, and you know what? I liked it. Let there be chaos. You're always, whether it's to sell the match, which may have sold 2 matches, more in a second, or just the fact if you see that, chaos. People love the brawling, and Mariah and Tony haven't stopped. That's good wrestling. 2 stories that have nothing to do with each other. But yeah, people that don't like each other They're not finding their own hallway to brawl in. No, it just happens to happen. The wrestling backstage can be a chaotic place. It's why the lore of the NXT parking lot is what it is, because shit happens there. That's what we know that. Wrestling is chaotic. So I love the visual of that. Now, Nerdy, you just said I could see Hangman costing Bryan the title. Maybe to get to Swerve. I get that idea. But my question is, we're getting Jeff Jarrett and Hangman. Are we getting it on All In, or are we getting it before? Remember, they're running shows, they're running TV across the pond, coming from an American, the week of the show. I want Hangman and Jeff Jarrett at All In. I do. I don't know if that'll be the case. Now, as was just mentioned, there is the Casino Gauntlet match for a future world title match. That will be loaded up as well. That's something Hangman wins, perhaps. So, I'm not sure. They could both be in the Gauntlet. They could have that match on a TV episode before All In. I would like to see it in Wembley because I don't know. Tom just mentioned they're in Virginia next week, which is where Hangman's from. But at the same time, do you want what kind of reaction? Hangman will get some kind of reaction. I want to go to the Hangman part where he cut the promo earlier in the night. He was talking to Renee, and once again, you know what all he cares about is Swerve. And Renee brought up hey, things haven't really gone your way lately. You've been losing and stuff like that. He blew right past that, which is good. Because he loses to Darby, yes. I don't think it hurts him. Because the way he lost is he was all over the place. And you can't do that to Darby. Darby will make you pay, and he did. And I loved his line. Justice delayed is justice denied. He wants justice in his own brain. He wants to make sure that Swerve does not have that championship. That's the justice that's delayed. He only wants Swerve. And I thought to myself as I watched it, and maybe you don't think this way about Hangman unless you've seen the story arc, because he has had you can see the journey of Hangman. Everything he's done from the beginning of AEW to now, it's all connected in some way. And I don't know if you could say that about anybody else. There's been turns or changes or disappearances, and some of that stuff gets explained and some doesn't, or some doesn't connect. Everything that has happened to Hangman has led to this moment, has led to every other moment. Losing his friends, finding new friends, the drinking stuff, almost winning the world title, losing the world title, the stuff with Swerve, the stuff with Punk, the stuff with the Bucks, the stuff with Dark Order, that entrance, the famous entrance where you got the separate theme, all of that stuff connects. Getting suspended by the EVPs, coming back only because they needed him for blood and guts, threatening to fire him, which you can't do, or you can't ignore because he needs his job, because we know he has made it clear his family matters to him. And that is part of his character. Some people have that. Kevin Owens has always talked about that. I fight for my family. Hangman is that kind of, he cares about his people. But he doesn't have any people in AEW right now. So every part of it, there is, to me, Hangman is like the original character of AEW. Everybody else had something. And I know he came from Ring of Honor, New Japan, but the arc of him as a character has a starting point and has continued all the way through to where we are now. where I don't like if you can't say you agree with him. Tom's son, happy birthday to Noli, is a big Hangman fan. He's 11 years old. He's not. I've seen Tom's comments of he doesn't like Hangman anymore because of what he's done, and he's yelling at kids. But you know what? I think you can look at Hangman and go, he's lost his way. But I know deep down there's a good Adam Page in there. There's the Adam Page that people took the journey with, that wanted to see him win the world title, that had to fight his old friends, that had to find new friends, that had to go out on his own. A couple people are making that comment. Delayed Gratz. I always thought that Hangman was the secret main character of AEW. Donnie B. Like Sting was the WCW, Hangman is the franchise of AEW. Franchise is different, but like it's him. Franchise is... I don't know if anybody's the franchise of AEW. MJF would tell you he's the franchise of AEW, and I don't know if he'd be wrong about saying that. But the main character, the person you're probably supposed to like, the person you're supposed to be most invested in, is Hangman. I am. That entrance with Dark Order against the Elite, with the big, the who's a cowboy, one of the best thing AEW has ever done. You were super invested in that guy because you've seen his journey. There's no disconnect in anything that Adam Page has done in AEW. Everything is connected to something else. When I watched that promo last night at the end, I said, exactly what I wrote down. I said, I still think people will get behind him in a big way when he works through his shit. He's going through it. And you know what happens in life when you go through some stuff that's not easy, or life doesn't treat you fair? You get angry. You lash out at people. You do things you're not proud of. You get in bad moods when you don't want to be in bad moods. People in real life will tell you that. I'll tell you that. How's that? The character of Hangman Page is in that part of his life right now. He's not happy with how things are going. Somebody broke into his house and then became world champion, and the people cheer that guy now. Why wouldn't you act like Hangman if that happened to you? Now, what he's done along the way, the side quests he's taken, Jeff Jarrett now being the one right in front of him, even though he wants it to be Swerve, Jeff Jarrett's the next hurdle it seems like Hangman has to get over because he's picked that fight one too many times. I like the idea of Hangman going through it. I like the idea that he's got to fight through all that. Mentally, physically, in matches. But maybe the motivation is correct. Maybe the motivation is understandable. The actions on the other end of it, you don't have to like. But I get the motivation. Hangman is a very different character that's ever been presented before in wrestling. It's a very real character, the millennial cowboy, and how he's talked about things, and you see him drinking or not drinking, and losing friends and gaining friends, and got to make choices, and people leaving him behind. He's very real. There's no BS with him. And I agree that he's going to continue to lose his mind until he gets to Swerve. Or Swerve's not champion, whatever that may be. Maybe that's a match that he loses to Swerve. Maybe it's a match where he beats Swerve. And Elliot, I just said it. He comes across as a little unlikable. He's supposed to be. That's the point. He should be unlikable right now. He's not listening to people that want to help him. He doesn't want to hear it from anybody. He is so locked in on Swerve that he's making mistakes along the way. I hope this ends, not necessarily with him beating Swerve, but an understanding of some point of, okay, I got to him. Do I feel better now? Will it make him feel better? Who's going to have that conversation? I'm going to come back to, I said this about, Eddie Kingston talking some sense into Takeshita about dropping Don Callis. I'd love that conversation. Hey, compadre, brother, it's not going to make you feel better. I could see Eddie Kingston having that conversation with Hangman. It's not going to make you feel better. Trust me, I know. What are you going to do? You think that's going to make you feel better when you hit the pillow at night? I'd love to see that conversation. That, Eddie's another one of those guys, when he talks, it makes a lot of sense. He's very real. I am, look at everybody bringing up where we're at. To me, Blood and Guts was about Hangman and Swerve. Not only because of the actions of Hangman, but because of what we saw when they then both got in the ring and the face-off in the two rings, and the crowd came up late in that match at the end. When all 10 guys were in the ring, they came up for Hangman and Swerve for that face-off. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Hangman is the main character of AEW. Other people say they are, and will be at times, get more focus. But the through line from the start of AEW till this very day is Hangman Adam Page. And you can complain about missing stories or not filling in gaps, and I'm about to talk about some of that stuff. Hangman Adam Page would benefit maybe more than anybody from AEW's entire library becoming available. I know they've been doing those timelines on YouTube. I wouldn't even do Hangman's yet. I would wait a little bit. I'll wait a little bit longer. But I do think that would be the first thing I did if I was organizing that. The Journey of Hangman. That would be its own bar or its own, section there when you fire up the Max app for the first time in AEW. The Journey of Hangman. You can get everything. I would put that front and center. There's a lot of things you can easily, but that's, to me, that's the best story the company has and continues to tell. That's me. I'm happy to see other people are with it. Now, let's talk about some other stuff on the show. MJF, who apparently has something written to his contract where he gets to open every show, because I think this is like almost every show but one he has opened. Whatever's on before, Big Bang, whatever, the Warner Brothers thing comes up at the end, the credits from last show, every single time since he's come back, it feels like MJF has opened the show. Nice spot to be in. And Kyle Fletcher has really started to win me over for what he brings to the table. The MJF stuff, I think it's a little over the top at times with this American thing, and it's low-hanging fruit. But I much rather this version of MJF that we've seen since the turn than any of the babyface stuff we saw last year. He's way more valuable in that way. My phone shows me funny things at certain times. But they have a hell of a match. And I will say this. MJF is doing what he's supposed to be doing as a heel. But he also, we're now seeing him work a bit more. He's really good. And I think people are starting to get that if they didn't. Because he didn't wrestle that much for like the first couple years. He just didn't. And like I've always said, matches don't matter nearly as much as people say they do. It's about appearing. It's about being consistently on television, presented a certain way, talking. Like, it wasn't about MJF's matches. But I will tell you from working with him on the indies, and now what we're seeing, he's a hell of a worker. And him and Kyle Fletcher had a hell of a match last night. I will say one thing I really liked. Kyle Fletcher, they have the stuff on the outside. And Kyle does the dive into the crowd. I mean, he is going full blast, dives in the crowd, and they get with it. For a guy who's aligned with Don Callis, even though I think more people like him because he's the best friend of Will Ospreay, he goes into the crowd, they spill out, and the crowd starts the AEW chant. Tony tweeted about it, of course, as he should. Whatever. Hype the show. And he sat there. This is a lesson for young wrestlers out there. And he waited. And he let them come up more. And he soaked it in. And he posed for them. And they were with Kyle Fletcher. And then as the match continued, they're doing his chants. They're with him more. Right before the dive, I want to shout this out because it's happened a lot of times recently, and I don't think it gets talked about enough how important it is. MJF was being a dick and playing to the crowd and messing with people and all that stuff. Tony Schiavone is so good at calling out and showing and expressing his disgust for heels like MJF. He's done it with Mariah. He's done it with plenty others. It goes back to 1996 Bash at the Beach. Hulk Hogan, you can go to hell. You can go straight to hell. There is a level of that matters more coming from Tony Schiavone. He has that level of respect. He's seen everything. Even in 1996, he had been doing it for a long time, and he's the straight man. He always had to be the play-by-play guy and call the action, and, you know, the opinions were about what the heel was doing. Not over the top. You feed to your color commentator. That's what a good play-by-play guy does. They don't have a lot of their own opinions. They're calling the action. They're supposed to be neutral. You feed to Bobby the Brain. That's what Gorilla Monsoon did. He would keep Brain in check. JR would keep the King in check. Cole would keep Graves in check, or Tom Phillips would keep Graves in check. That's how that worked. You feed to your color guys. But Tony, as that third voice, that voice of the veteran voice, which is a newer kind of role in the commentary booth. JR played that a little bit, you know, at times. He's done it in AEW. He did a little bit during the back end of his tenure in WWE, where it's the respected voice. Excalibur's the straight guy on commentary, or should be. He's calling the action. He's directing traffic. They don't really have that heel commentator. Nigel's the closest. A heel siding. Taz is I get it. I'm analytical. Tony is the babyface color commentator, but can do some play-by-play stuff. But he has that respected voice. I love when Tony calls out a heel because it matters more. I love when he does it to Stokely. I love when he does it to MJF. I love with Mariah May. When it's deserved and Tony calls it out, he is selling how despicable they are. And when it comes from Tony, it seems to mean more because everybody likes Tony Schiavone. That only adds to the character. I don't need Don Callis on commentary for all of his guys' matches, but I will say I thought he did a pretty good job in this match until the screwdriver thing. He made some very good points about both guys. He called out MJF for his actions, good and bad. He talked about Kyle when he was playing to the crowd. He's got to get back in the ring. I like that. I think some of Don in New Japan did a lot. Like when he was really good, he was really good. When he was bad, I thought it hurt the product. I think it can hurt the product. But I think he makes some good points. I thought he was very good on the match last night. Now, Don gets pissed about not a 3 count. So he goes down to the ring. He comes off commentary, and here comes the screwdriver again. And he gets it to Kyle, and he's distracting the ref. And it's just very, basic shit. Kyle goes to use it. No. And the crowd pops. Okay. He's with more Ospreay than he is a Don Callis guy. I'm okay with that. Tosses it away. Kick to the nuts. MJF beats him. You saw what happened after the fact. He gets beat on more. Right there, I don't like it as much because not only does he look dumb, he looks dumber for not using it. I get it. He wants to be someone who wins the right way. He doesn't want to cheat. He wants to earn that shot at the international title, the American title, whatever. I get that. But to get kicked in the nuts immediately, and then get beat on even more after that, then it made him look dumb. And then they had the thing with Will trying to fight to the door, and I don't know, maybe more should have been put in front of the door or whatever. Here's my other thing, and I would love this to be addressed. This should be on Tony's Twitter or Shot for TV. MJF hit Paul Turner, the referee, with his title. Square in the head. There has to be repercussions for that. Now, I say that, and I go, well, has there been repercussions for Christopher Daniels laying at the feet of the Elite the night of Blood and Guts? Now, I'll give him an out if they want one. The EVPs let it happen, whatever. And I don't even think that's an out. Something should happen to him. You should fine him, whatever. And you could fine him a bunch of money and then go, cool, I'm the richest guy in the company. I can afford it. That's fine. But there's got to be repercussions for hitting a referee. Not pushing a ref or whatever. He hit him in the head with a title. If he's a heel, give me a reason to say, hey, wait a minute, he can't do that. No. And then Ospreay comes out and Callis is yelling at him. Where were you? What kind of shitty manager are you, dude? You're his manager. You felt the need to go sit on commentary. Why are you relying on someone who left your group to go take care of one of your guys, even if they are best friends? Just in story, it makes Callis look like a shitty manager because he doesn't care about anybody else. That's fair. Let's talk about Mariah and Tony. Talked about it a little bit already. Mariah comes out, makes her entrance. Viva Van, as we talked about, I think I called her Vivian. I apologize for that yesterday. I honestly thought they were chanting, "We want puppies," and I was like, oh, because I heard people saying, "No, we don't." And I went, oh, no. What crowd is this? This is ancient history. And it was, "We want Tony." So it was weird audio, and I know they had some issues with that at the beginning of the show. Mariah wins, as she should. I will say I've been very happy with Mariah turning up or continuing with the intensity that we saw when she cracked Tony over the head with that title and beat her up with that heel. She seemed to be this understudy and a little withdrawn, a little scared, a little girly girl kind of thing, more about being pretty, and she has thrown that out the window. She'll still post pictures and want you to see that she's hot or whatever and all that stuff, and that's fine. But there is a mean streak, there is an anger to her, there is a motivation that is just, I'm a killer. And I like that. So she gets the gift. She opens the gift and you see the hug. And on the back, it says, "Die, Mariah, die." And all I could think of was Ray Finkel. I don't know if RJ City's a Ace Ventura fan or whoever's doing that story, but it's like "Die, Dan, die." Laces out, the scribbles everywhere, and go to his house. Like that's That's what I saw. That I saw die, Mariah, die. And I'm sure that's been said in other ways. But I went, oh, Tony Storm has been watching her Ray Finkel videos. But it's good. And I said I like that they want to kill each other all the time. And you need security to come out and separate them. That's good. Security should need to do that. I will bring up the fact that security was nowhere to be seen as MJF took out a referee and continued to beat down on Kyle Fletcher. So there's a little what happened. But Aubrey Edwards stopped Tony. Why? Because she had the heel in her head? Okay, fine. Well, why did no one stop MJF? That I don't get. Also, one thing, and I think they fixed them last night, Tony Storm's had Uncle Leo eyebrows for a couple of weeks, and it's thrown me off a little bit with her. Like when he had them drawn on, and he was angry. That's a Seinfeld reference. It's like she had the drawn-on marker eyebrows that Elaine drew on him. They seemed to be a little more subdued last night. But I very much like that they want to kill each other anytime they see them, whether it be that collision match over the weekend where Mariah was on commentary and Tony's like, wait, she's here? I'm going right over there. I'm going to go kick her ass. That's what I'm going to go do. And then the pull apart and the brawl that was going on with Jeff and Hangman at the same time. Great. I love that they want to kill each other at all times. Give me that super chat right now, by the way. J Love, I was not ignoring you. I wanted to get to it at the right time. Hello, Matt. Hi, Matt. You probably need more time to answer, but what match would you main event all in with? Feels like Ospreay versus MJF, but if you do that, no one will respect the champ Swerve. J Love, thank you for that super chat. I wanted to wait to get to it because I wanted to cover the three matches that can main event the show. Swerve and Danielson, MJF and Ospreay, Tony and Mariah. When you put an all-time greats career on the line with the title on the line, it main events the show. Because I had said right after Mariah and Tony, it's in play to main event. I don't think it is anymore. I think it's lost a little steam. I've liked it, but I think it's lost just a little. It's still going to be very over. They're still going to, I'm sure they're both going to have very big entrances, as they should. It should be come across as a big deal. Yes. But I think Danielson Swerve, because of the stakes, because of the star power of Danielson, who's the most well-known person on the show, that's on the card, at least as of right now, it's got to main event the show. You can't follow up either Danielson winning the title or losing his career with anything else. You just can't. I agree with this take. I do think MJF Ospreay will open the show. I think you have, they could. Do you want the big pop for Ospreay's music coming out as the challenger first, which I'm sure will get a big entrance, or do you want whatever American bullshit that MJF's going to have with his entrance coming out first? Do you want the booze to open or be the second entrance? Either way, you're starting off hot. I agree. I think that will open the show. Opening and closing are the two most important spots in the show. No doubt about it. Absolutely true. Very good question, J Love. I don't think I've ever had MJF and Ospreay as the main event. I don't think it. No. This is not a Bulldog Brett situation 92. This is Swerve, who has earned the spot to main event, versus Bryan Danielson, who's putting his career on the line with the title on the line. It has to main event the show. Those stakes are too high for anything else to come after it. And by the way, not a bad problem to have that we're even having this discussion. Not at all. Couple other things here I wanted to hit. Jack Perry and Darby, which you know is going to happen all in. Jack starts cutting that promo. And I see him with the coins, looking at all the screens, and I'm like, is he Harvey Dent? Is there some kind of Two-Face thing? And then he says the line about priceless or whatever. And they go to the Taco Bell commercial, and then it cuts back to him, and it finishes, and we miss some of it, and then it goes back to the Taco Bell commercial. I don't know who messed that up. That might have been TBS. I don't know if it was the AEW truck. I don't know. Has that promo gone up on social in full? Because it should have. It should have at this point, at least. I want to just check real quick, and maybe you guys know this answer already. I love to, because you got to get, if you put, they put some effort into that one. It was, I don't, for everyone say it was a mistake. You don't interrupt the promo, so I don't see it as I'm scanning through. Oh, there it is. It did go up. So they put it up. Yeah, they did put it up. All right, good, as it should be. If he was a babyface, though, I would have had him eating Taco Bell next week with the sponsorship. And I know Darby's thing was already pre-taped. So they had to show it after, so he couldn't even address it. Or, they just... they were not the focus of this week's show. They got a little focus, but not the major focus. And that's fine. I like Darby explaining his actions. I'm not lighting him on fire. I actually liked that they addressed that. Because people were like, why didn't they do it? It's Darby Allin. Why wouldn't he light him on fire? Because he wants a title that means something to them. Because they want the title to come, because Darby wants to get the title off of Jungle Boy, off of Jack Perry. He wants it. He needs it. He wants to make sure Jack Perry gets there so he can beat him for it. So scare him, threaten his life, do whatever you got to do. But he didn't do it because he wanted to make sure he got the title match. And he wanted to make sure that Hangman, that Jungle Boy got to that match, that Jack Perry got to that match. So I liked that they closed that gap a little bit. They closed that hole. Delayed Goats, put that one up. As we're coming towards the end of our program here today. Do they use the Casino Battle Royal to introduce a bunch of new signings or one-time surprises, perhaps? Ricochet, Lashley, MVP, or even Shane? I don't think you want to do multiple. Always, and I'll equate this to, so many new things happening in WWE and SummerSlam where it was like, wow, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. It was very angle heavy, and it was like, well, which way do we turn? You don't want the focus to come off somebody or multiple people by diluting the focus, by diluting the pop, even, if you will. Obviously, in a match like that, only one person has to take the fall, so you could put a Ricochet in there, and they don't have to win. I wouldn't want anybody who is new. It's a Bobby or a Ricochet. I don't want them winning that. It's too fast. Not with the picture around the world title right now, with Swerve and Danielson and Hangman, and Darby's got the shot at Grand Slam. I wouldn't want that. I would want it to mean more with people we know. Hangman wins it, whatever. I mean, Jeff Jarrett wins it, I wouldn't want somebody new to get a world title shot that fast. Because if it's somebody new like a Bobby or a Ricochet, all of a sudden it's, whoa, they already got a world title shot. Yeah, but are they winning? Like, come October, right? When they do Wrestle Dream in Washington. The champ's either going to be Bryan Danielson, Swerve, or Darby Allin. Do you want a Bobby Lashley to beat one of those guys already? Do you want a Ricochet to beat one of those guys already? What's a future world title shot? Does it happen at World's End? I'm just saying, you don't want to bring somebody that new. And if you bring in Bobby or Ricochet, they're going to be a big deal already. But I don't think you want to put them in a world title match where you might have to beat them within a couple months. I don't think that's necessary. You want to build them up for other things, and sure, get to the world title down the road. I think you do that Casino Gauntlet because somebody's going to win that fits in a little bit better and maybe could afford a loss. That's all. Brian Keith Shibata. So Jericho comes out and says, thanks to Matt and Nick Jackson for removing Taz from commentary. So they have that power. Remember that. I thought Jericho and commentary distracted from the whole match. Admittedly, I don't think anybody really cared about Brian Keith and Shibata because it was more about the backdrop to Hook returning. I want to say one thing. I'm good on the Jericho thing. I'm whatever. I think Big Bill does a very good job in his role. To the point that I wonder if he was doing this as a new character for himself, if it would be accepted better. Because I think the stuff he does, whether it's with Jericho or on social media, he's very good and he's very deadpan at it. And he's not insulting people's intelligence or talking in a certain way that seems like he's making fun of people. Because I think that pulls away from like engaging in a good way. But I think Big Bill and his role is pretty good. And I wonder like, what if this was just him doing this stuff as the way he's acting? I think it would work. I think he's doing some very good work in the role. Knowing Hook was coming back, I would have kept Taz on commentary until Jericho came out and then have him leave, but almost doing so willingly. Like, all right, fine. You know what you're getting into. As opposed to, we found it off camera that security escorted Taz away. They whisked him away. I was like, is anybody whisking Taz away? It's Taz. Don't fuck with Taz. I would have liked to see that happen on camera and him get in a line that if you're paying attention, he knows that Hook's in the building. So Hook comes back and holds the title up, and I assume it's Hook Jericho at All In because Jericho's performing like the night before. He's already there. That was the thing. He was always going to be there. So I guess Hook, Jericho, FCW rules at Wembley, and maybe Taz will put Jericho in the Taz mission. So now let's get back to why I had issues with the EVPs helping Jericho. Camille does the squash. She wins. Mercedes gets in the ring with a live microphone. And I don't think it was the best. I'll just be nice. It was not the best. It was not very good. Talks about the suspension, right? And then we go to Tony Schiavone. He goes, hold on a second. The voice of reason, Tony Schiavone. Tony Khan has overruled the EVPs. Britt's suspension is lifted. Here's a pre-taped promo, which was fine. Whatever. They need to get back in the same building and get some heat back on this match. Why did Tony Khan overrule the EVPs there? Why for that? Not anything else that's happened in the last 2 months. Why? Is he preoccupied? Does he not care? I just need that explained a little better. It's if you're going to say he can overrule, that means he's always been able to overrule. What changed? Why now? Why Britt Baker? You got to close that storyline gap. You got to. And I would also say the suspension stuff and her not being there and what Britt and Mercedes has felt like a match people have wanted to see for a while. As soon as Mercedes was out of WWE, when is that happening with Britt? Britt talked about Mercedes. When is it going to happen? They got to and Britt's comeback got the big pop, and she's the baby face, and here we go. And it's cooled. They got to heat this thing up. They got to heat this thing up in a hurry. You know, they did the thing at Comic-Con. That was good. And then the suspension, and then she's on the pre-tape last night. Like, they got to heat this up. I still think they can, but they got to do it. They got to do it. One other thing I do want to note. Okada and Claudio have a face-off next week. Nothing's been announced other than Tony Schiavone over the weekend saying after his win on Collision, and it was mentioned, he is the top contender for the Continental title. Certainly feels like we're getting Okada and Claudio at All In. One of those matches I would have been like, you know what? I like that. I'm good with it. I don't need a hell of a lot of story. One guy thinks he's the best. The other guy's been one of the best in the world and underrated forever. Yeah, let's let that happen. But we're going to get a face-to-face with them next week. Two big, tall dudes face-to-face. Whereas Tony said, in suits. I'm excited to see. You know what? Sometimes I'm just happy to see a match I never thought would happen, and we're going to see it. And I assume it's going to be at All In. And Okada needed to do something at All In. And I thought it might be Hangman, but it seems like he's going to have Jeff Jarrett. Let's go. I'm in. Give it to me. And that was pretty much Dynamite. So, the audio issues at the beginning, the Jack Perry thing with the Taco Bell, that's the Brit suspension. Those things happen, and you put a bad taste in people's mouths at this time of year. That stinks. It really does. Now, something I do want to note, I know I say that a lot, MJF is going over to the UK soon for that match with Michael Okur, who I guess is rumored to be part of All In some way. He is a friend of Ospreay's, Oku. I would assume we're going to get some MJF on UK media. Seems like there's been a little more press for that kind of stuff to happen. So that could, him doing the whole American shtick on British television could do quite well. I'm really interested to see how many tickets they move between now and the show and how much local media they do and media they do in general to move those tickets. 7 match, I think, is on the card right now. I'll look that up real quick. I think it's a 7-match card with a couple other things announced. All In 2024. What do we got right now? So All In, as of right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 7 matches. I was right. Oh, and they added the trios match for the AEW World Trios Championship, and that is still TBD. Who's going to face the Patriarchy? Casino Gauntlet was added. Obviously, Mercedes and Britt. Jack and Darby for the TNT. MJF Will. Tony and Mariah. And Swerve and Danielson. So 7 matches now. I would think we're going to get Jericho added to the card. Would make it 8. Jericho Hook. Okada Claudio makes it 9. I think it'll be Acclaimed. Bucks will make it 10. Am I missing anything obvious? Oh, and Jeff and Hangman make it 11. So I think we're on pace for 11 based on how stories are going. That's fine. It's going to go long. That's what it is. I don't think you need to push much more past that, though. Oh, Stat and Willow, 12. Thank you very much. Right, because I think there's Rampage stuff with them this week. No spoilers. So I think we're at 12. 12's fine. 12's a long show, but 12's fine. No, I would say of all those matches, I don't, it doesn't feel like anything's getting thrown on the card, which is important. Thunder and Dion, I think, is going to be blown off before that. I saw Will just say that, the bull rope. Because they have the Arlington stuff still going on. I think that'll be done. Willow and Stat that'll make it 12. Which I'm happy for Willow and Stat and Stokely to get all the way there to that. I know they haven't had as much focus as they did, but, that shifts at times. So, 12-match card. Certainly better than last year's card. It's a better filled out card. I would say that as well. Now, no Moxley so far. Takeshita's over and doing the G1 right now. Anybody else big being left off the show? I'm trying to think. 0 Hour. And I know 0 Hour has that too. Of course it does. But yeah, be ready for a long show. I don't know what the start time is. Hopefully they start a little sooner. Because it is over in the UK, so you think they would start it sooner. I don't know. We'll see. Tomorrow's kind of a free-for-all show. We'll see where things are at with the news. I know TKO announced some more massive money that they made, as they should be talking about that stuff. And see what's going on with SmackDown. Obviously, we'll be talking about Roman, but I will be, what I want to do tomorrow, and I'll kind of get this together, I'd like to pull, not for the whole show, but some of your YouTube comments. Some of them I've responded to in a little detail, some I haven't. Kind of a review of what you guys thought of stuff from the week and almost kind of recapping and going back and answering some of your questions from that, from the comment sections. We'll do a little bit about that, but for the members, once again, we can get that up there, Dom, before we close the show out. Monday, 4 days away. 4 days away. If you would like to watch Raw with us here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com, you got to be at the level of a Matt Camper or the Matt Event. Love to have you on any level, but that is what gets you into the Raw watch party on Monday night, coming off of one of the best Raws of the year. We will have more information on the AMAs coming out very soon. But we are, as you can see, we watch a random episode of one of the shows every month. We're going to be watching Raw on Monday. So please make sure, if you want to be part of that, that you sign up at the Matt Camper level or higher. Matt Camper or the Main Event gets you in there. And we'll be finalizing some of those other things for this month in the coming days. And we'll be making announcements on our social media at WrestlingMatt23, at the Matt Camp, and of course right here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. If you have not joined yet, head over to the membership section. It's right down below me here, right here in the join area. You can go do that. Thank you to the Super Chats today. Appreciate that. We're going to have some more giveaways coming up. A little bit of a different giveaway coming up very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Appreciate all of you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us on social media at WrestlingMatt23 and the Matt Camp, and like, subscribe, and comment over at the WrestlingMatchShow.com for the subscriptions, for the memberships. Earlier today, from a show earlier this week, we got a segment there about my thoughts on the presentation of Gunther as a world champion, his match with Randy Orton at Bash Berlin, and coming up tomorrow, talking about Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, how they are now in an excellent spot as baby faces for WWE, and how Triple H has always thought of Damian Priest. Plus, how Bronson Reed had the biggest night of his career on Monday and has a shot to go even bigger. All of that is available, and make sure you check out yesterday's show if you'd love to hear some stories about Jeff Jarrett and me, stuff that hasn't been heard anywhere else because it's stories about Jeff Jarrett and me, and my personal interaction with Bryan Danielson. I talked about that a lot. Yesterday's show, so make sure you go check that out. Donnie says, does that top tier come with a pair of J's? It does not. But if you're ever on any of those shows, super chatting in these shows, or if you're on the Matt Camper level and the mid level, or that upper tier, the Matt Event, and we're watching the show, or it's a private AMA, if you have a question about anything that's behind me, I would absolutely reach out. I've done it on the show before, but I'll talk to you about anything that might be behind me. So I can't give away a pair of J's, but we are doing more giveaways here. So Donnie, a very fair question. Yes, we'll bring it your way. And I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more right here, 1 o'clock Eastern, every weekday at thewrestlingmatchshow.com.